My boyfriend dumped me because of so-called red flags, once his best friend pointed out, then came crawling back, asking for another chance. Here's the whole story. I'm a 23-year-old woman, and I've been dating my boyfriend, Nathan, who's 24, for nearly 8 months. That might not seem like much, but for Nathan, it's the longest relationship he's ever had. Before me, all of his relationships were quick flings that fizzled out after 3 or 4 months, tops. So naturally, I believed what we had was different, something more meaningful to him. But a few days ago, I started to question all of that. Nathan's best friend, Karen, also 24, has lived next door to him for over 14 years. They first met when they were 10 and have been thick as thieves ever since. They went through school together, chose the same college, and now even work at the same company. So when I say best friend, I mean she's basically his second brain. Nathan doesn't make a move without running it past Karen first. And yeah, that includes dating me. He admitted later on that every girl he ever got involved with had to be Karen approved before anything could go further. If she didn't like someone, that was the end of it. She called the shots. Looking back, that might explain why none of his past relationships ever made it past the 3-month mark. He only confessed all this about 4 months into our relationship. By then, I was already emotionally invested, so I stuck around. Yeah, I know. I should have seen the red flags then and there. If I'd known how attached he was to Karen from the start, I probably would have said no thanks to even the first date. Now, as for how things were between me and Karen, well, it wasn't awful, at least not at first. We'd met a handful of times and always kept things polite. But whenever the 3 of us hung out, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was subtly reminding me that she came first in Nathan's life. She had this way of making me feel left out, like I was just tagging along in their little duo. I never called her out on it, though. I tried to befriend her in the beginning, but it was like she'd already made up her mind about me, and I didn't stand a chance. Eventually, I gave up trying to win her over. And to be honest, maybe I even made things worse when I decided I wasn't going to let her win. I was done playing second fiddle, and I guess that made me a threat in her eyes. Anyway, fast forward to what happened a few days ago. I came down with something nasty, just a stomach bug, but I felt awful. I live alone for work, and my roommate happened to be out of town, so I didn't have anyone around to help. Normally, I wouldn't rely on a guy, but I was desperate, so I called Nathan and asked if he could come over and help me out. At first, he hesitated, and I figured maybe he was worried about catching whatever I had. I reassured him it wasn't anything serious, just some stomach issues, but even then, he still seemed unsure. That's when he told me he had already made plans to go see a movie and grab lunch, with Karen. Now, I was already feeling like death warmed over, and hearing that he'd rather hang out with Karen than come check on me really stung. Deep down, I always knew if he had to choose, he'd pick her over me, but having it play out in real time still hurt. I got mad. Really mad. I told him flat out, "You should just date Karen," and then I hung up on him. I didn't answer any of his calls after that. But about an hour later, he showed up at my place with this sheepish look on his face and a container of homemade soup. He apologized and said he canceled his plans with Karen. That meant a lot. Honestly, if he hadn't shown up, I probably would have broken things off right then and there. We spent the whole day together, and by the time he left that night, I was feeling a whole lot better, physically and emotionally. What I didn't expect was the fallout that came next. The very next day, Nathan completely vanished. No texts. No calls. Total radio silence. I started to panic. I thought maybe something had happened to him. I kept trying to get in touch all day, but nothing. Then, right around midnight, he finally called. But the way he sounded, it was off. He was cold, serious, not like himself at all. He asked how I was feeling, then told me I might want to sit down. And just like that, he dumped me. At first, I thought he was joking. But then he kept talking. Said he'd given it a lot of thought, and he'd come to the conclusion that I was full of red flags. That he couldn't keep doing this. That it was over. I was stunned. Completely blindsided. I couldn't think of a single thing I'd done that would count as a red flag. At least nothing that would warrant a breakup. I always tried to do right by people, and I really thought I was being a good girlfriend too, so when this happened, it hit me like a freight train. I just sat there, stunned into silence, while he told me he couldn't be with me anymore. And then hung up. Just like that. The shock was so intense, I couldn't even wrap my head around it for a few minutes. It was like my brain just shut down trying to process what had happened. What made it worse? The day before, we'd been having the best time together. Laughing, holding hands, acting like everything was perfect. And now, out of nowhere, he was saying he wanted to end things because I apparently had red flags. That didn't make an ounce of sense to me. I ended up crying myself to sleep that night, totally confused, because I couldn't even reach out to him to ask why. He'd blocked me everywhere, calls, texts, social media, just vanished. No answers, no closure, nothing. What really stung was that he couldn't even break up with me in person. After everything we'd shared, he just ended it over the phone and offered no real explanation. For the next few days, I was a mess. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't focus on chores, I was just walking around in a fog. I kept replaying every moment from our last few weeks together, trying to pinpoint what I'd done wrong, what made him suddenly see me as this walking pile of red flags. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't come up with anything that made sense. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about Karen. I hadn't seen her in a while and had kind of pushed her out of my mind, forgotten how much control she had over Nathan's life. Then last night, out of the blue, I got a call from him. And I'll admit, I was caught off guard. I was still trying to come to terms with the breakup, and hearing from him again that soon wasn't something I expected. I picked up, and before I could even get a word in, he launched into this frantic apology. He sounded like he was falling apart, so I just let him talk. No interruptions. He started by saying that he hadn't actually wanted to break up with me that day. According to him, it was Karen who pushed him into it. Apparently, she didn't like that he cancelled plans with her to take care of me when I was sick. She twisted that into some kind of red flag and then brought up a few totally normal things I do, like making meals I enjoy or picking out clothes I think would look good on him, and told him I was trying to control him. And unbelievably, he bought it. She convinced him I was some manipulative girlfriend trying to isolate him, and he swallowed every bit of that garbage. It was insane. Who breaks up with someone over something that ridiculous? But apparently, my boyfriend did. He said he was sorry for everything and wanted another shot. Said he'd do anything to fix it. And let me tell you, I didn't say anything right away because I was fuming. My heart was pounding, and I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. All this time I'd been blaming myself. Wondering what I did wrong. But it wasn't even me. It was Karen, scheming behind the scenes, and she was just fine while I sat there shattered. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. I mean, I practically snatched Nathan right out from under her nose. When he chose to stay by my side that day instead of going out with her, that was it, I became the threat. She couldn't stand that, so of course she set out to break us up. Suddenly, everything made sense. Nathan kept begging me on the phone to take him back. And get this, he even said we could keep our relationship a secret from Karen so she wouldn't interfere. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all that, he still didn't get it. He was so deep under her thumb, he didn't even realize how much power she had over him. And that wasn't my battle to fight. If he'd ended things for a real reason, something honest, something between us, I might have at least considered hearing him out. But to dump me just because she told him to? Without even thinking for himself? That was a deal-breaker. It was clear he'd never stop being her puppet. Whether he kept our relationship a secret or not, she'd keep pulling his strings, and he'd keep dancing. And the worst part? He still couldn't admit she might not actually have his best interests at heart. Instead, he was ready to sneak around behind her back, for her sake. That, right there, was the biggest red flag of all. For me. So no, I wasn't getting back with him. The second he told me the real reason for the breakup, my decision was made. I'd cried enough over this guy. He didn't deserve it, and he sure as hell didn't deserve me. Still, I couldn't just let everything slide without at least trying to knock Karen off her pedestal. So yeah, I'll admit it, I did something kind of petty. Maybe even manipulative. And while I'm not exactly proud of it, I do think it needed to be done. Last night, I told Nathan there was only one way I'd even consider getting back with him. He had to tell Karen everything, straight up. He needed to let her know he was choosing me, and that she wasn't in charge of his life. I told him he had to make it crystal clear that he was getting back with me because he wasn't going to be bossed around by her anymore. That was the deal. And honestly, if she went out of her way to humiliate me, then I figured she deserved a little dose of her own medicine. When I laid it all out for Nathan, he was stunned. He tried to talk me out of it, said it was extreme, said it wasn't necessary. But I wasn't budging. I told him flat out, either send her the text I wanted or don't bother calling me again, we'd stay broken up. He went back and forth for a few minutes, trying to reason with me. But eventually, he did it. He sent the texts. Even screenshot them and sent them to me to prove it. And as soon as I saw that message, I hung up on him and blocked his number. Done. Yeah, I know, it was harsh. And yeah, it was probably cold. But after everything I'd gone through over the past few days, it honestly felt like the bare minimum. It's been 2 days since that call, and I haven't heard a peep from Nathan. He's blocked out. Karen too. Neither of them can reach me anymore. At first, I felt a little bad about what I made Nathan do. But after reading through some of the replies here, I started thinking maybe I didn't have much to feel guilty about. I mean, Nathan did have a choice. I didn't hold a knife to his throat. He sent those messages because he wanted to win me back. That was his decision. Sure, lying to him about wanting to get back together wasn't exactly noble. I'll own that. But I honestly don't think what I did even comes close to the damage he caused me. He made me believe I was the problem in the relationship. He took Karen's word at face value and acted like I was some toxic girlfriend without ever even talking to me about it. He didn't stop for 1 second to consider how it would hurt me, or question what she was really up to. Those few days after he dumped me? I was wrecked. I was spiraling. I kept second-guessing myself, rethinking every little thing I'd said or done, trying to figure out how I'd become the villain in a relationship where I was just trying to be kind. So no, I'm not exactly drowning in guilt here. I haven't told anyone about the breakup yet. I was sort of keeping it to myself for a bit. But now I probably have to start saying something. Just this morning, one of my friends texted to invite both Nathan and me to her birthday party. And when I show up alone, folks are definitely going to ask questions. That's the part I'm really not looking forward to. We always looked happy together, at least on the surface, so people are going to want to know what went wrong. I'll come up with something. Doesn't really matter what at this point. The important thing is that I'm finally out of that relationship. This morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I ignored it the first time. But when they called back a few minutes later, I picked up. It was Karen. The second I heard her voice, I was ready to hang up. I had zero interest in talking to her. But then she said, "Go ahead, hang up. All it'll prove is that you're a coward who can't face me." And yeah. I probably should have just let it go. But it got under my skin, so I stayed on the line. And she just went off. Called me a sneaky liar, trashed me for everything I'd done. Said she was glad Nathan and I were over because he was way too good for me anyway. Then she called me the B word, and that's when I snapped. I told her exactly what I thought of her. That she was nothing more than Nathan's backup plan, just sitting around waiting for him to be single again. That she'd probably spend the rest of her life pushing other women away just to keep him for herself. I think that one hit her hard, because her voice started shaking like she was on the verge of crying. So I kept going. I reminded her that Nathan chose to send her those texts. I didn't force him. I didn't trick him. He had a choice that night, and he picked me. That was the final straw. I could actually hear her break down in tears on the other end of the line. And honestly, I didn't feel the slightest bit bad. She was the one who called me just to throw insults and try to make me feel like garbage, but now here she was sobbing. I have no idea if she and Nathan are even speaking to each other right now, but honestly, I kind of hope she runs to him crying about what I said. Let them both come after me again. I'd love nothing more than to hand it right back to them and remind them that I'm not someone you mess with and expect to get away clean. They're not the only ones who get to hurt people. If they're so comfortable dishing it out, they'd better be prepared to swallow it too. That's just how it works. So a couple days ago, Karen called me, and let's just say it didn't end well for her. Like I said earlier, I was kind of hoping Nathan would reach out and try to confront me afterward, because honestly, I was itching to give both of them a piece of my mind. And today, I finally got my chance. The friend who introduced us in the first place was hosting a party, and both Nathan and I were invited. She had no idea we'd broken up. About an hour into the party, Nathan showed up, with Karen right beside him. And from the look on their faces, it was clear they came there hoping to start something. I pulled our mutual friend aside and explained the whole situation. I even told her I'd leave early if things started to get tense. I didn't want to turn her birthday into some drama fest. That was her night, not mine. But she just laughed and told me to stay. In fact, she admitted she kind of wanted to see the drama unfold, especially after everything I'd told her about what happened. So I stayed. I kept it classy. I didn't approach them or start anything. If someone was going to make a scene, it wasn't going to be me. But if they brought the fight to me, I was more than ready to meet them at their level. Sure enough, about 30 minutes after they arrived, Nathan came walking over while I was chatting with another guy. And just to be clear, I wasn't even flirting. It was harmless small talk. But I guess Nathan needed an excuse to lash out. He walked right up and, loud enough for everyone around to hear, made a snide comment about how I'd already moved on from him. Then, in front of everyone, he accused me of being fake. A cheater. Said I was phony from the start. And there was Karen, standing right behind him with this smug, nasty smile on her face. I swear, I had to clench my fists to stop myself from slapping that look right off her. Nathan just kept going. Started talking trash about me, brought up the phone call from a few nights back, and actually had the nerve to say I was the backup, not Karen. That I was never worth dating in the first place. At that point, I laughed right in his face. Because let's be real, if I wasn't worth dating, then why did he come crawling back just a few days after he dumped me? All because his buddy Karen had filled his head with nonsense. He had his turn to talk. Now it was mine. I looked him dead in the eye and told him the truth. That both he and Karen were beneath me. That he should have felt lucky I ever agreed to date him in the first place. Because from where I'm standing, he's nothing but a weak little puppet, and Karen's the one pulling all the strings. And the sad part? No decent woman is ever going to want a guy like that. Honestly, if he'd just acted like a decent human being, I might have been willing to give him another shot. But nope, he blew it. Big time. And then there's Karen. His so-called best friend who was so petty and insecure that she tried to break us up, just because he stayed with me for one day when I was sick. That's how fragile her ego is. She even used a completely new phone number just to call me. That's how desperate she was to get through to me. It was almost flattering, in a sad sort of way. Like, wow, I must have really gotten under her skin. But the more I thought about it, the more obvious it became, her whole act just screamed insecurity. The way she handled everything? It didn't say strong woman, it said jealous, clingy, and desperate. Honestly, they're kind of perfect for each other. Toxic meets toxic. And I genuinely hope they stay together, because no one else deserves to deal with either of them. By that point, the whole party had basically come to a standstill. Everyone was staring at us, eyes wide, mouths shut. Nathan didn't say a word. Just stood there, glaring at me like he wanted to set me on fire with his eyes. And Karen? She had nothing smart left to say, so she just started cussing me out. She got all up in my face too, like way too close. I could tell what she was trying to do. She wanted to push me into hitting her first so she'd have an excuse to throw hands back. But I wasn't falling for it. I wasn't about to give her that satisfaction. I didn't even want to touch her. Eventually, she started breaking down, crying, yelling, the whole mess, and that's when Nathan finally realized it was time to go. I guess they'd had enough embarrassment for one night. Once again, their little plan to humiliate me had completely backfired. They were the ones who had to slink out the door. Nathan literally had to drag her away because she refused to leave. It was like she couldn't accept that she'd lost. That she was done. But she was. After they left, my friend came over, gave me this huge grin, and told me I'd just pulled off one of the most badass moments she'd ever seen. And I gotta say, it felt good. Everyone was laughing, the tension finally broke, and we got right back to partying. The rest of the night was amazing, good drinks, great food, and a whole lot of fun. And me? I felt good. Like, finally good. I got the closure I'd needed all along. After that, Nathan and Karen are officially a couple now. Yeah. It's been about 3 months since that wild scene at the party, and it looks like they finally realized what I'd already said. No sane person would put up with either of them, so they might as well just date each other. I heard about it through a friend of a friend. I haven't had any contact with them since that night, and I plan to keep it that way. Also, I've been seeing someone new. He's great. Totally my type. And fingers crossed, no psycho best friends hiding in the background this time.